This movie was so powerful. But very subtle, very quiet, but very impactful. I want to talk to you at first about just how did it get on your radar? How did this movie kind of come to you?
I knew that Frank was auditioning actors, and I got the script and I read it and I loved it. Um, Spoke to him, and I was just like trying to find out also the backstory of why he wanted to write it and tell it. Um, and I loved his answer. He was like, "Look, I am an Irish person who is a taxpayer, and I want to know. I didn't invest. I'm investigating into what is happening with the taxpayers' money to help people who are in need, and if it's done correctly." And he said from that point, it kind of pulled him into this world of trying to find out, about the provision system. And he started to do research, um, voluntary work, and just forming relationships with different people who had gone through this experience. And the movie and the story started to like flesh itself out. And I just really respected the amount of time that he put into research and to finding out, and how he wanted to put these two characters in this world. Um, and explore it. And from there, I felt like everything you said about the script and or the movie was everything I felt about the script, the subtleties of it.
Mhm.
It was very stripped back in its approach, but also still very impactful. And I loved it for that. So I wanted to step into it.
Now, did you know anyone personally that has had experience with that kind of asylum seeking system?
Not particularly the provision system, but definitely on the UK side, yes. And what I've learned is that it's very difficult. Um, you can feel in limbo. It can mess with your mental health. Like there's a lot that happens that people don't see, and I feel like this movie showcases, that for a lot of people.
Well, it reminds me a bit of in Cowboy Carter. Beyonce has this line where she says, a pretty house that we never truly settled in. And it
Mhm.
makes me think of that idea of you're trying to find a sense of home away from home, but you can never feel settled because you don't have that sense of safety. You don't have that sense of permanency. I loved when the women were talking about how, they wouldn't let you have a microwave, they wouldn't let you have a fridge. And, you're trying to explain to your children, I can't get you ice popsicles because they're not going to keep, they're not going to last. We don't know how long this is going to be here. I loved, there was a quote that you had where you said, we're not going to make this without us, without the people who have experienced this. And I know a lot of the consultants were people who have been through the system. There's a scene in the movie where it's a lovely scene where you're doing, their makeup and the hair, but the women that you're talking to, those are the women who acted as consultants who have been through the system. Is that correct? Can you tell me about the experiences working with them?
Yeah, it was there are also some of them who were also like actors too. Like I don't know if you remember, like Aisha shared a room with a lady has a mother. She's a mother and she has a little son. That mother actually went through the provision system. It was it was actually like really like it just hit you, you know what I mean? That yes, we're on a film set, but these are actually people who's gone through this and they can tell you firsthand their experiences. And it's a mixture of different feelings. It's not one of anger or hate or anything like that. It's just one of like we understand what the system is, but we want the system to be better. And it just really gave me everything I needed for this character. Like I couldn't have been more blessed and privileged to like be around them and just to like spend time with them. You know, they're just they're just like everybody else. It's like you just want to shake people when they put people in a box and say, no, like this is a mother who, you know, is a teacher. Like she's just like us. Like, you know, there's someone with a law degree sitting right next to you. You can't undermine him, you know. So I feel like that really, really, really blessed me. Like it really allowed me to see like what I was telling and what this story is worth telling. Does that make sense? Like it literally made me appreciate that I could be the vessel for this story because yeah, they're right there sitting right next to me and sharing with me what they went through. So yeah, I've not really had anything like that where you're making something and the people that you're making it about are in the process with you. And that's hats off to Frank too, because he could have easily just been like, I'm gonna go take the story, make it for myself, like, you know, be a great director, have some great actors in it. But no, like from, you know, everybody that lived in the house with us, quote unquote, lived, you know, they were a part of the provision system at one point, you know. Yeah.
Well, I think it's such an important line, but it's a difference between when we talk about cultural kind of appropriation versus appreciation. It's the idea of I'm not just showing you this thing to kind of exploit it, but I'm showing you this thing to explore it, to really kind of put that showcase. Like you were saying, you're being a vessel, you're not just being a billboard, but you're actually embodying the thing and letting it fill you not just with the emotions of it. While I was watching the film, it reminded me a lot of Origin, of Ava DuVernay's Origin, where you have this narrative, but it's really wrapped around this very historical true fact. There was another portion where she was like, oh, Aisha, please tell us your story. And you're like, it's not a story. Like this happened. This is real. This is my life, that we're talking about. I wanted to ask about, the Josh O'Connor. I love, he's having his moment now with challengers and seeing this really kind of stripped down performance of Connor, and that relationship where we have her going through this very heavy, heavy thing. But then on the flip side, we have this very human element where you're like, oh, she's just a girl. She's just like this young woman who also has feelings and also, kind of wants to experience love. Tell me about the idea of kind of adding this very relatable kind of human element to it.
I think, you know, that's hats off to again Frank, because his last movie before this, he was looking at the prison system, um, and Connor's character, you know, Joshua's character is meant to be his backstory is meant to be coming from this.
Mhm.
So what I loved about it is like, yeah, like it was just this unexpected thing that she didn't want, like you know, she's trying to get her papers. Like she ain't got time for no boy. Um, but also what I loved about it is like the purity of it too. And it just a lot like just like how the movie allows you to breathe and like spend time with this character in this situation. It also allows us to spend time with her, like contemplating about love and like and contemplating about this person and and like them being there for each other. Quite a vulnerable thing for him to kind of confess how he feels about her, but also a vulnerable thing for her to also take a step back and real and analyze if this is what she needs. So I think again, it's just like showing you layers of like you can't just take people who go through the immigration system and box them into this thing that you think they are. Like this is your story, this is where you come from, and next, and you know, it's kind of like they're experiencing so many different things like everybody else. It's just that their situation is tricky because they're trying to find a form of safety in a
Right.
foreign land. Yeah.
There's something, she's so strong, but having to be strong and having to kind of embody that thing of, you know, the typical strong Black woman and do all of that in this thing where it's like, but she is still just a young woman and who has
Yeah.
gone through so much. The idea of having to tell her story was so, there were so many times where I didn't want her to have to tell that story.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it almost seemed like they were waiting for it. They were like, they had the popcorn ready. It's like, yeah, tell us what happened to you, and they were salivating. And to kind of go through all of that and to see that rejection with that letter, it made me want to reach through the screen. Tell me about
Yeah.
kind of the idea of like restraining that emotion and kind of keeping that dignity. What was that the importance of that to kind of show Aisha kind of, I guess, maintaining that emotion.
Mm, that's a good question. Um, I feel like I was able to like put my mind to a real experience that I saw with someone that I know. And I um I'm tapped in to know like how these questions make you feel. So I feel like I was carrying that with me too. Like they don't see you, they want to know like is they feel like this is all that you are, and so I feel like it was a multitude of things. It was just knowing how the questioning process can make you feel kind of degrading, but also how does she keep herself like kind of like stable in it all? It's like knowing who she is. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yes, I will share my story with you, but no matter what I say, it still remains the truth still remains that I'm just seeking safety.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And it's I don't need you to make me feel like a victim or like I like it's a mixture of things. It's super hard to answer that question. I feel like I just had to just look at the women who were like sharing their stories with me, and just understand like at the end of the day, it's not about that. It's not it is about sharing your story, yes, like, but it doesn't define you, you
Right.
know. Who you are before and after defines you. That was just a situation in time that you're trying to overcome, and it shouldn't break you. So yeah, I guess I'm still processing what you've asked, but yeah, it's a balance. It's a balance, really. Um,
Well, it's a lot, and there might not be an answer. That's kind of
yeah.
the topsy turviness of it all, especially when a system like that is so wild to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like if anything, like, yeah, she's processing what she's gone through and she's sharing it, but it's also like that result is like punched, it's kind of like a slap in the face, So it's kind of like, is it about my story, or is it because you want to have power over your decision? Like, is it the power dynamic of like you get to decide what happens to me next? Like, it's messed up. It's tricky.
I could talk a million more years because I have a lot to say about the fact that I was a woman and, that women seem to be the victims of these things. But unfortunately, there's not enough hours in the day. But your performance in this film was just, like I said, so subtly done, but so impactful and so heartfelt. So thank you so much for taking time to talk with us at the Cherry Picks about this gorgeous film. And I can't wait for more people to set eyes on it. I really think it's so well done. And congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate you.